is holding a refrigerator and walking towards a man shooting at him, and the bullets are just like hitting the refrigerator.
He just crushes him against the pillar.
He crushes it, and it's great. It's great. And I was like, as soon as that happened, I was like, all right, movie, you got me. I'm in. And then they fumbled the ball for the rest of the fucking movie. But yeah, absolutely smashes the guy with a refrigerator. It's fantastic. Hello and welcome back to the 171st episode. Good, Bad, or Bad, the show we watch terrible movies. Tell if you should too. If you hear my cat in the background, just ignore him. He's being a little bit petulant this afternoon. As always, I'm your host, Brian Jellico, joined once again, like always, Mr. Kyle Hinton.
Everything feels new, but also old at the same time. It's like something new happened just before this.
Yeah. Yes, we didn't announce it ahead of time, but we have new show graphics, which is fun and exciting. If you obviously noticed, if you watched the last episode, we premiered those kind of just by surprise, made by friend of the show, Conrad. Thank you, Conrad. Excellent stuff. He was down in the comments somewhere in the last video. Awesome. But yeah, new show graphics going forward. We might even have some more coming, some more elements and stuff coming in the very near future. So fun stuff, very exciting. But this week, we're doing a patron request.
We're going back.
Going back to what?
Back to the 80s.
Oh, okay.
Gotta get back in time.
I was like, is there somebody in this that I didn't... well, there is one person that we've had at least in one movie.
Yes.
We'll get to him a little bit later.
If it's in the 80s and you need a villain, you hire this guy.
Dickie Lynch, baby. We're talking about 1989's
One-Man Force.
That takes the action to the limit and beyond. One-Man Force.
So this movie is a vehicle for... This was an attempt to turn a football player into an action star.
Which... Okay, so John Matuszak is the football player in question. He played for the Raiders for like a decade, won a couple of Super Bowls, and you may know him whenever he started going to the acting side. His most notable role was Sloth from The Goonies.
Goonies, look at that. You came dressed appropriately. Well done. But yeah, he was Sloth in The Goonies. And then he's a giant hulking beast of a man. I don't know. Do you know what position he played in the NFL?
Defensive end.
That would make sense.
His job was literally just to kill people.
Yeah, that would make sense. He's got the build. He's like tall and lanky, but like very muscular. You know, he's like a huge guy, but he's not like, you know, he's built.
He's very tall for a defensive end.
Yeah.
6'8".
I don't know. They're all. Oh, is he 6'8"? Yeah. So they're usually pretty tall, but that I think is on the taller side. But yeah, he's a hulking beast of a man. And he's we'll talk about how he is in this movie later. He's fine, I guess.
Serviceable.
Yeah, serviceable.
And you didn't back us up! Well, that's it. You're suspended! Fuck you!
But we open up this movie. I will give the movie this credit. The opening title song is a banger. We get this like right into this incredible like 80s like
it's like Virgin on Miami Vice.
Yes, it's fantastic. I was like, all right, I'm into this. I am absolutely into this. And the credits started rolling, and I saw a name pop up, and I was like, Ronnie Cox. Why does that sound familiar?
Well, once again, this movie plays into a lot of tropes of the 80s, which is it's the 80s, and you need somebody who works in the police force who's not the main person, but he's like a lieutenant.
Yeah.
You get Ronnie Cox, who was also the police lieutenant in Beverly Hills Cop.
Oh, that's not what I know him
what
from.
Do you know him from?
I know him from I'll be the Mike Stoklasa in this situation.
Oh my God!
He is Captain Jellico in Star Trek TNG. There's one episode.
Oh yeah, he was in a couple of episodes of that.
I think it's only one, but yeah, he comes in and he takes over because Picard is gone, and he's like he's like the stand-in captain for an episode, and Riker fucking hates him, but he ends up being like nice. And it's a great episode, and he plays a great character, and he actually plays a similar-ish style character here who's like very by the book and that sort of thing until the reveal at the end, which we'll get to. But
circumstantial evidence, wild supposition. Bring me facts.
Captain Jellico. I was like, I couldn't not call him Captain Jellico the whole time because he's great in that in that episode of TNG. But also, we mentioned just a second ago, Richard Lynch is the main villain. And I'm trying to remember what we had him in.
We had him in
at least one movie we've done.
Total Force.
Okay, a lot of Force movies.
Yeah, a lot of Force movies with him. He was in Rough Cut. He was the.
Yep.
I think those are the two.
I think those are yes. Yeah. I knew it was at least one. I knew it was one of those generic '80s movies that I just couldn't remember because I thought for a second, wait, was he in Death Proof? But he's not.
No, the best part about him in Total Force is he sits in. He's like doing this presentation. He's like head of this like weapons manufacturing group, and he's giving this presentation to people. Which they almost do, not like shot for shot, because weirdly enough to say, Total Force was shot more competently than this. Yeah. Let me put in a scene from Total Force that's like absolute disaster.
Yeah, it's actually because I thought this movie looked pretty good. Yeah, they're very different. Yeah,
but like in this one, it's just like kind of a head on, maybe a cut in. For
this one's. Boringly but competently shot is what it is.
There's some wacky stuff. Yeah. But by and large, this one is middling.
Yes, very middling. That was my biggest complaint is I found myself very bored at times, but we'll get into that, especially in the middle. It needed more of specific moments that we'll get to. You just ignore him. He's not going to stop until he will eventually. But it's going to be a minute. He'll mostly be drowned out on the on the edit, I'm sure. Richard Lynch is the main villain, is great. So getting into the actual story here, though, we open up on some guy putting on a mask and then breaking into a building, and we don't know what this is. We spend like 10 minutes watching him pick a lock.
We know he's a huge dude because he rips the security gate off.
Yeah. Oh, and it's even funnier when we find out momentarily. This is like his best friend's establishment or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's like a bar that his best friend owns or lives in and works at or whatever, which is or I guess his best friend's wife does. Yeah. I guess he's probably part owner or whatever. But
so he's like breaking into this, and I'll give them credit on this. It's not as bad as some of the lockpicking scenes. He just like puts the two things in, and then we cut inside to him opening instead of them being like jiggle, 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 jiggle.
My money don't jiggle, jiggle. It folds. I like to see you wiggle, wiggle for sure.
Yeah, that's how lockpicking works. Nailed it. Crushed it. Incredible. But he breaks in, and I still think it takes way too long watching him break into this place. Let's get to whatever. Anyway, so he gets inside, and then he's like trying to shoot. There's a guy at the bar with the bartender, who's this woman, and they're kind of flirting, and it's clear they slept together last night, but we don't know who they are yet. And there's also a guy like passed out on the end of the bar that they're like joking about. And the guy with the mask keeps trying to like get a shot at this guy, but he keeps not being able to because she's walking in the way or whatever. And then eventually he's able to
get on the other side of the bar.
Yeah, and he sees him, and a firefight breaks out.
There was a firefight.
Absolutely,
there was a firefight.
They just start shooting at each other like crazy. Again, no context, which is fine. It's a good opening.
This kid just shows up, starts blasting as well.
Yeah, so then this kid comes out of nowhere and starts blasting and initially like saves the guy at the bar who we think is like the target of an assassination attempt or whatever. Yeah. But then a minute later, he turns and shoots that guy. And I was like, wait, what just happened? I thought you were here to save the guy at the bar, and then you shot him.
No, it's two assassins after the same target.
Yeah, and then we'll find out it's all just a paintball game. Yep. They're just playing paintball, basically. I was like, oh, okay, fine,
cool.
I guess.
Thanks for getting all that everywhere.
Yeah.
I've been shot. No, you haven't.
They're all friends. And the kid is the son of the bartender who is married to or is dating. Our main character's name is Jake.
Yeah. And his partner name is Pete.
Pete is dating or married to the owner and bartender, and then that's her son is the other guy. So that's the whole dynamic there. But we're just kind of establishing they're all friends and like hang out and play paintball in their own bar together, which is a terrible idea. But then we cut into the police station. This is where we're introduced to Captain Jellico, who is a captain on the police force or whatever, just yelling at I believe he's yelling at Jake and them about something.
You guys are loose cannons. You got circumstantial evidence. You got to play it by the book.
You're full of shit, Jake. You've got nothing. Circumstantial evidence. Wild supposition.
Yeah, and they're like, fine, fuck you. And then they leave because they have a drug bust or something they're going to.
Thank you very much, fellas. Now I gotta go ride with this nut.
And they go to
they
this
got Colombian
warehouse.
Cocaine. That's the whole. It's the 80s. What do you expect?
So they roll up to this warehouse, and it's a refrigerator warehouse, which is very important.
Not a refrigeration warehouse.
No.
A refrigerator.
Yes, like they sell like a warehouse for a company that makes and sells refrigerators.
I love refrigerators.
And they get inside, and there's a drug bust or drug deal going on, and everything blows up. Like they end up basically another.
Once again, there was a fight.
Yes,
there was a firefight. Huge
firefight breaks out. Everybody is just shooting at everybody. It's all chaos. And then eventually, Brett, what's his name? What did you say his buddy's name was?
Pete.
Sorry, not Brett.
Way off.
It ends in T.
Yeah,
close enough.
He doesn't last very long.
Yeah.
He gets shot. I can't remember, Chico or something.
Yes,
like that?
Chico, I believe is his name. He seems to be the head of the local South American mob unit that is operating here in. They're in LA, I think. Aren't they?
Yeah, they're in LA.
And so Chico shoots his partner, and he's like, "Oh no!" And he gets super sad and upset about it because he's like, "No, you're my best friend."
And then he gets super rage, and he lifts a refrigerator,
which is the best thing. And if there would have been more of that in this movie, I would have liked this movie a lot more because this scene was incredible.
We get it later on,
but it's two moments: one at the very beginning and one at the very end, and then the rest of the movie sucks.
But they're firing at the refrigerator, but it's a refrigerator. Yes. It's a giant hunk of metal.
He is holding a refrigerator and walking towards a man shooting at him, and the bullets are just hitting the refrigerator.
He just crushes him against the pillar.
He crushes it, and it's great. It's great. And I was like, as soon as that happened, I was like, all right, movie, you got me. I'm in. And then they fumbled the ball for the rest of the fucking movie. But yeah, absolutely smashes a guy with a refrigerator. It's fantastic. But now so that resolves that whole thing. The rest of the other people get away, like Chico and the rest of most of them get away. And then we cut, and now his partner's dead, and he's kind of taking care of his partner's widow, who's obviously very upset by all this. Yes. And they're at home, and this really doesn't go anywhere that important.
No.
But she's like, please stay with me. I don't want to be alone.
No, stay with me until I fall asleep, please. Please, Jake. Please.
And he lays in bed next to her, above the covers.
And then the sun walks in, and it's perfect. Just oh, great.
Yeah. He's like, you're not my real dad. And runs out. He's like, it's not like that. Well, I can't remember the kid's name. Is it Harry, maybe? I have it here later.
No clue.
I have a note of it here later. Ronnie. It's Ronnie.
We got you.
I'm pretty sure. I think it's Ronnie. Doesn't matter. Anyways, so he's very upset that he kind of views Jake as moving in and trying to take over which I guess I don't think the other guy was even his dad. I thought maybe he was. I don't know.
Maybe. But the point is, we quickly move to he's in that position now. Yeah. Because the film needs to go bang, 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 bang with that.
Yeah.
I can't tell. So I know he's wanting to be very going after the killers, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I can't Jake.
Yeah.
But I can't remember if at this point he's off the force.
Yeah, this is the scene where he gets thrown off the force. He goes into the office, and him and Jellico are screaming at each other from 3 inches from each other's face. They're like, "No, you're a loose cannon."
Ronnie Cox may just be an average guy, but John Matuzak's 6'8" and a huge man and very intimidating.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're just screaming at each other's face, and at the end of the scene, fucking Jake just
throws everything off his desk.
The shit off the desk and storms.
And you didn't back us up!
Oh, well, that's it. You're suspended.
Fuck you!
He just goes to random people and starts shaking them down for information.
Yeah.
Like he goes to random parked car.
Yeah.
I say random parked cars because obvious drug dealings going on.
Right.
But he just breaks the window and just goes, "Where's Chico?" Just ripping people apart. He goes into the jail.
Yeah.
He goes like this guy is he's being detained in the LAPD and he just starts shaking him down in the jail.
Yeah, it's pretty great. But so then he kind of storms out of the police office and he's off the force now or whatever. But then he's at a bar later and he meets up with some guy.
Nightclub? Was it okay?
I thought it was their bar. Maybe it's somewhere else. I don't know. He's somewhere.
There's a lot of bars in this. It's really confusing.
Yeah, but this is where he gets the job. Basically, he's off the force, but he gets contacted by some random guy who says that he's a manager for this famous rock star. Named like Leah something, I can't remember.
So he's being hired as basically a private detective to locate her
because she got kidnapped.
You're on a funny thing where it's like, I'm a licensed private detective just doing a job.
I'm a licensed private investigator. Was hired to find a rock star.
What is a licensed private eye? What? How do you become a licensed private eye?
I think that's a real thing, Kyle.
Is it?
I think you can be a licensed private eye
licensed
as opposed
by
to an
whom?
I don't know, but I think that's a real thing. I might be wrong.
Okay.
Well, do the research when you're doing the edit and put it in because I don't know, but I thought that was a real thing. Right. I could be wrong. I have no fucking idea. I've never hired a private eye, Kyle, so I don't know.
Fair enough.
But anyways, he needs her. He's like, help me find this. She got kidnapped. She's very famous. You know, they're holding her for ransom, but we got to figure out who caught her. And he's like, fine, I'll do it, whatever. And he gives him like a matchbook. I think, or maybe he gets that.
Yeah, I think
else.
that's where the club is.
Yeah,
the club he goes.
Yeah,
to.
but meanwhile he stops back home for a minute. We get a great interaction between him and Ronnie, where Ronnie's just like, "I fucking hate you," because he's like tries to stop him from smoking weed. He's like,
"Yeah, you don't need this dope,
you don't need this stuff," and he's like, "Ronnie, I'm gonna have to kick your ass," and it's delivered so awkward.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to kick your ass. You know, you and Mom get ripped every night. You're a couple of fucking drunks.
But then I love after that conversation with Ronnie, he comes down into the bar because they like live above the bar, it would seem. And he comes down, and did you notice he walks out of like their living space into the bar area, and there's a poster on the wall of a football player that I'm fairly certain is John Matuszak. Just right now. At least it looked like it could be. I'm not sure, but I was like, I think that's him. But this is where he goes to the club. He goes to the nightclub because he gets the and
this nightclub is kind of ridiculous.
Oh god! Well, it's impossible.
You can't see shit because
so
the only quality of it that's I could find period was like 360p.
Yes, it was a YouTube rip that you found. Yeah,
and this scene in particular is super dark.
Oh my god!
And the your level of contrast is like.
It's just the compression is because YouTube already hates dark stuff.
Yeah, the compression lends to that. When you can't delineate between your lights and dark, the compression just goes nuts.
Literally, when you're watching this on YouTube and when Kyle puts clips in, it's like 8 pixels blurred.
Yes.
Like you cannot tell what is happening at all. Like when it's bright, it's like fairly okay. You can kind of.
It feels like this was shot on like a Motorola phone from the early 2000s.
Yeah, and then emailed back and forth 8,000 times, and then we get the final version of it was emailed somewhere. They uploaded it, then re-exported it, and compressed it again, then sent it somewhere else, and it's just terrible. But he gets in there, and it's like an alternative lifestyle club. So there's all kinds of people like they're partying and having a good time.
Yeah, there's people dancing engaged.
Yeah, there's a guy on a leash who's dressed in which we'll get to. This is the other good moment in this movie, which we'll get to. There's a guy in a safari outfit on a leash, being like drug around the inside of this place. But anyways, there's somebody in there who knows some information about something, and Jake goes in to confront them, and he gets in there, and then basically they're like, "Well, fuck this guy. Everybody kick his ass." And I love how everybody in the bar all of a sudden is like, "Yeah, let's kill this guy." And it's like, wait, what? I thought you were just random people.
Yeah, so everybody jumps him. He's got like 6 people on top of him, but since he's, John Matuszak, just throws them
all
off.
These people. And then the best part in this scene, and again, the only other good moment until the very end, in my opinion, he grabs the guy on the leash attacks him, and he grabs him by the leash and starts spinning him in circles and using him as like a flail to like hit other people with, and it's kind of incredible.
Great, yeah.
That moment, I was like, all right, that's kind of good.
Come on, let's go for a ride, pal. All right, the flying game
that was so weird to me. The way the scene ends is wild, and I don't understand it. He's getting his ass kicked again because there's just so many people.
Yes. And then a couple of people show up to help him.
Random guys walk in the front door and they're like, "Hey, that's not a fair fight. Let's help." And they're like, "Oh."
And then, so they're like,
he helps them.
Yeah, they're fighting, and then they get out. As they're leaving, they're like, "Oh, you're cops."
Yeah,
I'm a cop too. Oh, that's cool. And then they start kicking his ass.
Kicking the shit out of him. And I thought it was implied that they're working for the criminals that he's trying. But why did they help him? I was very confused. None of it made any sense. But they did have one great line as they're leaving. They're walking out, and he's like, Jake says something to him. They're like, "Hey, thanks for the help, guys." And they respond to him by going, "What the hell do we know? We're from Iowa." And I was like,
"Hey, what the hell do we know? We're from Iowa. We ought to be thanking you."
What does that mean? I don't get it. Is that like an old code slang for like being a cop or something? I don't know. I was like, I don't know what that means. But then they just beat the shit out of him and leave him for dead. But they run off, and then he follows them. Or they get in a car and drive away or something, and he follows them and ends up in this apartment building.
What was this all about?
I think that he's chasing them to try to lead. He's hoping they'll lead him to like whoever they're working for, which is who he thinks he needs to find, I guess. And so he gets into this apartment building.
And this apartment building is run like just.
I think it's just like a very in a very poor part of town. There's like lots of gangs and stuff operating out of it and that sort of thing.
Okay,
because it's like some of it's just normal people, some of it is like gangs running like jobs and stuff. There's like and then the person he runs into eventually. But but he's like following all these people, and then like it turns into like fucking attacks on Precinct 13 or whatever, like Judge Dredd, where like everybody in this building gets mobilized to like hunt him down.
What? So they're like knocking on doors. People are coming out with their guns and everything, and coming and patrolling the halls in like groups.
These two guys find him and lock him in a closet.
Yes.
What? Good scene.
And of course it doesn't do anything because he's a huge dude.
Like, we got him. Glock. And then
he just destroys the door.
It's pretty good. But he's running away and he's like, I gotta get somewhere. And he like knocks on a random door and he's like, "Hey, I'm a cop. Let me in. I need help." And this woman opens it up and lets him in. And she's a prostitute, I guess. And she's like, "Quick, take your clothes off and get in bed." And then she gets naked. And then the guys like burst in and she's like, "I got a John back here. Leave me alone." And like chases him out. And I was like, that was nice of her. I don't know why she would do that. Like she had zero reason to do that. And she just does. Like, all right, good for you. Good news for you, Kyle. This movie is so low quality. You don't have to blur any moves.
Exactly.
They're pre-blurred in this one, Kyle.
They're very blocky.
Yeah.
What the hell is going on here? Get out of here! Get out of here! I've got a job in here!
Oh, it's incredible. Anyway, so then she's like, "Okay, fine." And he's able to escape. He like goes out the window and like gets out of the building or whatever. And so he's able to escape. And then we get like an interlude where he goes back home. And he meets up with Ronnie again. And Ronnie
is having trouble with bullies at school now.
He's got a shiner or whatever because he got it beat up at school. And then we get like a Rocky training montage where he's like, "All right, Ronnie, come on, you gotta learn to kick and punch and whatever." And so we get a sweet training montage. And I will say that it's clear they're going for like a subplot of him bonding with this kid and stuff, like because their relationship starts rough where Ronnie's like, "I hate you, you're not my real dad," and then he like helps him like learn to fight, and then at the end they're like friends or whatever. John Matuszak's not the best actor in the world. He's good at smashing people with refrigerators. Not incredible at emoting.
I think he's good as a character actor, just not a leading guy.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like he's good as like a henchman or like or even like a fun villain, I think, or maybe even a good guy. But
I think the position he would be great for is like Andre the Giant and Princess Bride.
Once I find you again, how do we escape?
Don't pester. It's out of our day.
Right.
I think this movie's biggest flaw is that it's all just fine. Like it's mostly fine and like none of it's that bad, which is part of the problem. But anyway, so they train and they bond together or whatever. Then we're this is where we're introduced to Richard Lynch, who is set up as the big bad.
There are a bunch of like shell corporations that are working with these Colombian drug gangs, and it's all headed by Richard Lynch's character, something Adams.
Yeah, it's Adams is what they call him all the time. I don't know what his first name is.
I can't believe it. J. Raleigh Adams?
so they have to. Jake has to figure out a way to connect everything to him because they go through this database and they're like, well, they have this entertainment management firm which is controlling this rock star that he's trying to find for this one person.
Yeah.
Well, they also have companies that are using like this refrigerator company where they're trying to move all these drugs at and stuff like that.
And they're all like laundering money for the cocaine deals or whatever.
Those are all cash generating businesses, right? Makes it real easy to launder money, right?
And I love he gets this information by like visiting his random business, like his hedge fund manager friend or whatever.
The guy, everything about this is so 80s business.
Yes.
It's incredible.
So good.
Like everything down
he's wearing,
the hair, it's great.
Yeah, it's so good. And one of my favorite moments is when he's talking to that guy who's like, I don't even know. Again, like he goes into this office and he's getting information from this guy, and I love the guy's like, oh, I heard that Leah, whatever, the rock star got kidnapped. That's too bad. She's pretty hot.
It's a shame about her getting kidnapped. She's hot.
And the way Jake looks at him when he says that is like, what the fuck is wrong with you? It's so funny.
Oh my
He
God.
just like looks at him like, you're fucking weird, dude. Anyway, so then he realizes and he goes because they mention, I think his buddy mentions Senator Overstreet or Longstreet or whatever his name is, who's a guy who's like running for Senate or something like, or is in the Senate and is running for president or something like that. And basically we find out that he's also like partnered with and is like being funneled this money by Adams. There's all this dirty money, like, you know, going into politics and stuff like that. And this is the worst part of the movie to me because it's just like 30-second scene after 30-second scene of Jake like going to a place, looking at people for 5 minutes, and then the scene ends and we go to a different place. It's so boring.
And this is just an example of a part of bad writing, which is the introduction of everything to bring us up to a point. There's certain stuff that can be inferenced.
Yeah.
And that would help this a lot.
Yeah. They just have to show us every scene, and it's just Jake going somewhere, hiding in a corner, staring at people doing something, and then moving on to the next scene where he hides in a corner and stares at people doing things, which is also very funny because how does this man hide? He is 6'8" and 450 pounds or whatever. He's just fucking huge.
It's a -4 to a stealth check.
It's so funny because in the senator scene, he's like spying through the window, and they're like, "Hey, look, there's a guy spying on him through the window," and he's just like looking at him. They're like, "We got to do something about this."
I think that guy's trying to hide. How can you tell? He's like crouched slightly.
just like crouched, filling up an entire window. Yeah, it's good. But anyways, then we're like briefly, it doesn't really matter, introduced to some of the henchmen that work for Adams, including Dante.
Yeah,
who's another guy I recognize. That actor, I can't. It's like Chuck Norrie or I don't know.
Oh, Chuck's Napier.
Napier, that's it. Yeah, he plays Dante in the film, and then there's his bald other henchman guy, Wilson. Yeah, who I'd also recognize from some random bit parts in old movies or whatever. But anyways, Dante has like a fake badge. He's like a fake cop. I think it's a fake badge. I assume he's like, or he might be a real corrupt cop.
I think he's actually in the department, just like under he might be like under vice.
Gotcha. He's like a different. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not a fake badge. It's a real badge. He's just a corrupt cop. Okay. Sure. Fair enough. Anyways, this is where I was really starting to get bored though, because I don't care about any of this.
We're introduced to Delgado, who's like the head person when it comes to all the Colombian gang. Like he's just the head honcho. He's there to be like, oh look, it's he's the intimidating guy who runs all the drug running part.
Yeah.
Drug runners.
Drug runners running. That's what this song or this movie is missing, is that kind of fucking banger. But so like he chases, there's a car chase here, which is again fine.
So
like,
my favorite part about this, because this is where he's finally catching up with Chico.
Yeah,
is Chico, whenever he runs out of the warehouse, whenever he drives out of the warehouse to begin with, he's in this beautifully old car. It just looks fantastic,
yeah, like from the 30s.
And then whenever we're in here, he's still in that car, because that's the only way that that Jake can identify it. That is Chico. I was like, oh, that's Chico's car. And then it gets into an old beater car.
Oh, does he?
Because they need to destroy it. And they're not going to destroy that old classic car.
Well, the classic car thing's really funny too, because there's another scene where he like runs into that like businessman or lawyer. I think he's a lawyer in the parking garage. That guy also has like a weird old car that is very similar to the one Chico's driving.
It's like a Studebaker.
Yeah, I was like, why are they all driving Studebakers? What is it's so strange? They're all driving like gangster cars from the 20s.
I just thought that was hilarious that they need to change vehicles because like clearly in the production they were like, well, we need him to crash, but this car costs like
$500,000. Yeah, you can't crash this car. Yeah, absolutely. And again, the car chase is fine. It's like it's not that exciting, but it's also not incompetent in any way.
It ends in the most action 80s way possible, which is the car like flips and then explodes.
Yeah, it drives off a ramp and flips and explodes. You're like, all right, fine. And then basically a couple of the people are dead, but Chico got away again. And then he gets another confrontation with Captain Jellico, who's like, you gotta stop obsessing over this case. You're off the force. Again.
I like how like this car, they crashed, I guess they crashed into like a soft drink vehicle or something like that. And so Jake is like opening up a bottle.
Like,
and
it's like a squirt or something. Or I don't know what it is.
He just starts drinking it while he's like, the guy away again. And he just like slams it down.
And there's like a body right next to him, like laying on the ground. He's like, I'm thirsty.
So good.
Nothing like the refreshing, citrusy zest of a Fanta to quench your thirst next to a dead body.
And this is where he also starts to get like quips in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this car explodes. It's on fire. There's a raging inferno. I was like, damn, forgot to bring some marshmallows.
Boo. Boo.
Chico wanted to sell it that bad, he should have asked.
Jesus. You're crazy.
Yeah, but he gets dressed down again by Jellico, so he goes to drink it off again at the bar, and this is where he ends up at a different bar, and he's making eyes with some random woman across the bar.
Yes,
and she just immediately comes over and is like, "Let's fuck." And they dance on the dance floor. Also, he's like, "Guess what? Everything's proportional. I mean, everything. My dick is so big."
Big.
You just imagine this. It's all proportional.
Did you understand the reference I was making? When I said that earlier, I meant that my dick is gigantic. I hope you got that.
So she takes him to a very
fancy
house.
Yeah.
And he says,
Who's your boyfriend?
He's away on business.
What kind of business?
Won't your husband be upset?
Yeah.
He's away on business.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We're going that route.
Yeah.
But they're just about ready to get down to it. And then
Chico walks in.
Because like Chico, I think Chico died in that.
Did he? Okay, sorry.
Because this is Girardeau, who is the head dude.
Yeah.
And this is him being intimidating.
Yes. He walks in, he's like, oh. And he's like, put your clothes on, get out of here.
Put on your dress.
And so she lured him in. She was working for. She did this all on purpose,
which is weird because I don't think these two were associated at any point. Or I guess they know that they probably knew that he killed Chico, and they're getting after him.
I guess, yeah.
Probably
I would guess that would be what's going on there.
He does the typical like I am the gang drug lord dude where he goes. And like 14 people show up,
just appear out of nowhere. But they take him away, and they take him to
they go
horse.
Full Lethal Weapon on him.
Oh, I have not seen Lethal Weapon. So.
Like
another movie people can be mad that I haven't seen.
You really are crazy.
I'm hungry.
They like hang him up and torture him.
Yeah, they take him to like a horse barn. There's like a horse stables or whatever,
which also probably doesn't work too well considering the fact that he's 6'8". So he's just like, oh, let me just.
I was just standing here, yeah. But they wail on him with a fucking shovel for a while, just beating the shit out of him with a shovel. But he sees that the rock star is here. She is also tied up and locked in one of the horse stables. But anyways, so they beat the shit out of him with a shovel, and then eventually. Knock him unconscious, I guess.
Nail him into a box?
Yeah, they nail him into a big wood box. They like hammer it shut, and they're gonna take him out and like dump him in the ocean, whatever. And so they have him in the back of this truck in this box, which is so dumb. Why wouldn't they just shoot him? And then it doesn't make any sense.
Because we need like tension, Brian.
Yeah. Let's just knock him, we think, unconscious and then take him somewhere to kill him. Why not just kill him there? Okay, whatever, fine. It's not like you're worried about his blood. You just beat the shit out of him for like ever. It just doesn't make any sense. But they put him in this box. They're driving down like the highway in California, right on the edge of the ocean on a cliff.
This scene seems so fucking dangerous.
Dude, there was a couple times where I was like, that stuntman almost died. Yeah. But he's able to get out. He busts out. I was really disappointed because here's what I thought was going to happen. They were going to get wherever they were going, and then the box, he was going to like, and the box was going to like explode. Or my other thing that I thought would have been really fucking funny and amazing is he like punches his arms out and his legs out, and he's wearing the box like an old timey barrel cartoon. And he's just like in the box, like, and he's like running into people and smashing them with the box. Good. That would have been fucking incredible. But no, he just gets out of it underneath a tarp, so we don't even see it. We just see him kind of push against the top. It was disappointing.
He starts climbing over this truck. He punches out the dude in the passenger seat.
Yeah,
and then starts trying to strangle the guy while he's driving.
Terrible idea, bud. You're driving like 60 miles an hour down the edge of a cliff, and he's like, "I'll just kill the driver right now."
Yeah, and this is like the Los Angeles coastal highway.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, you're like, there's a 50-foot drop next to you.
Into the ocean and rocks and stuff. Yeah. But yeah, so he starts fighting all these guys. And or not all these guys. He knocks out the passenger guy and he's choking him.
This is where the stunt double has to come in because there's no way John did this.
No, absolutely not.
They had to have, tied him to the truck in some fashion.
In some way,
But it did not look like it helped at all.
Because there's a couple moments where that car swerves and he like rolls to the edge of and I was like, ah!
Well, there's one part where he like hits another vehicle.
That's the part
I'm
talking about. Yes.
He flips over the truck and partly onto the second vehicle.
Yes, I was like, oh my god. There was a couple moments there I was like,
it would not be difficult for him to go off the side of that
and
truck
get hit by the other truck. Yeah. It's very much. I was like, oh my god.
In the arms of the angel.
But he's able to, in that sense, it is impressive to some extent because you could tell it's a dude hanging on the top of a car, and the guy's like shooting at him and stuff. But eventually, he is able to basically distract him and
he loses control.
And our guy jumps off just in time.
The worst car explosion crash ever. You would think the car goes over like a cliff or whatever. No, it kind of just goes down a hill and just like
it is,
and then at the end it just goes poof.
It's ridiculous. You're like, it is like one of those things that should be like in Family Guy or something where it's like, it bounces down to like a tiny embankment and then just for no reason fucking explodes. And you're like, okay. And this is the scene where he's like, I wish I brought my marshmallows.
Oh, yeah. That
Fuck you.
Damn. I forgot to bring my marshmallows.
Meanwhile, Ronnie gets jumped by his old weed dealers because he's not doing the weed anymore. And they're like, I heard you're buying from somebody else. He's like, no, I just don't smoke weed anymore. And they're like, fuck you, kid.
Here you've been buying your shit somewhere else.
No, man, I quit.
And then he gets into a fight and makes him run off.
Beats them all up. Yep, because he got trained up by Jake. Fantastic. We also find out right after this that the rock star was murdered as well. Yeah. They just killed her and like, oh, okay. Well, so it turns out what happened, I think, is that the idea is that basically Lynch killed the rock star and what's his name?
Girardeau.
To like to basically tie up all the loose ends because they were the only other people that knew about.
It seems like they ran out of time to shoot something. I just feel like they did.
Yeah, because they're just like, oh, they're dead now. The end. Moving on. All right, Richard Lynch just killed him. But at this point, after that happens, Jellico is on board. He's like, all right, you're right. Because he has a recording.
He goes up and threatens the accountant.
The lawyer or the accountant or whatever, and that's the one where he also has the old timey car. That I was like, what?
Like blows his ear off.
Yeah, shoots his ear off with a gun.
Fuck! Jesus Christ!
And is able to like get him to confess to like helping cook the books or whatever for.
And it definitely didn't look like that was coerced. Like from a legal standpoint. anybody bringing that into court would be like, this just seems like you coerced him into admitting to the crime.
Yes, because he absolutely did. Now, to be fair, that's what Jellico says. He's like, this isn't admissible in court. Like, we can't do anything with this. So we got to get more, we got to get better and more evidence.
It's inadmissible. But it sure is some heavy shit.
Because we cannot use this this recording of you shooting a man's ear off to get him to tell you information won't fly in court, as it turns out. So they come up with a plan that he's going to wear a wire and go to some foundry that Richard Lynch owns. I don't know why this is whatever. But he's going to wear a wire.
But then Jake has a plan to wear a second wire.
He's going to wear a second wire.
And he goes up to somebody we've never met before.
I think is an old military buddy. Is what it? Because he's wearing like fatigues and he's in a wheelchair and he's like, hey, my old friend or whatever. Like it seems like maybe they were in like the war together or the war. I don't whatever. Would be my guess.
I forgot to talk about the guy who the manager dude who like hired him to.
Did something happen with him?
He just is found dead and Jake is arrested for it. And then, Ronnie Cox's character gets him out of prison. He's like, I can't just keep getting you out of jail when people turn up dead.
You can't keep turning up every time there's a body and expect a department to reinstate you.
Yeah. Well, you keep doing it, so I'm gonna keep killing people.
I thought that line was funny.
Yeah, but so he gets a wire from and it's implied maybe something beyond a wire because it's like if they pull this wire off you, it will hit a tripwire that will set off a radio.
It triggers a couple of different things.
Yeah, which I think one is it sends what he was recording somewhere, but also bombs, which we'll find out momentarily. But so he gets to the foundry, and it's the big face-off between him and Lynch, and they're sitting there chit-chatting, and he's like, but I got backup. And he's like, do you?
He goes up to Lynch, and he's like, so you're the king of cocaine.
You're the king of crime.
The tape recorder here. The king of cocaine.
King of cocaine.
Hello, I would like to buy some drugs.
Can you say that a little louder? What is it that you sell and do? Yeah. But eventually he's like, well, we know what's going on here. Fuck you. He brings some money or whatever, but then there's no money and it's all a trap. And he's like, but I got backup. And he's like, do you? And then Jellico comes out of the shadows.
Mac? Where's everybody else?
With a gun pointed
at Jake. He was corrupt the whole time. Least surprising twist ever. This is every one of these movies we've ever done. His superior, who's like a by the books guy, ends up being a corrupt cop. Who's like every single fucking time.
I was the corrupt cop the whole time. Yeah, we know.
It's actually the thing that makes Jellico interesting in TNG is that he's not corrupt or bad or evil. He's just like an actually good officer who has a different. Anyways, this is not a TNG episode, but so he's evil, corrupt, whatever, and then but the thing happens where he pulls. They're like, we know you're wearing a wire. He pulls the wire out, and then all these bombs go off.
Like you're surrounded, and they have fireworks and stuff going off.
Yeah. And I was like, how did they get all those planted? Doesn't Richard Lynch, isn't this his foundry? How did they get in there and set all these bombs up?
Private security
or anything?
Check this out? Okay.
Yeah, there's just bombs everywhere that they were able to plant without anybody noticing, apparently. So all these bombs go off. He's able to get away, and they get into a firefight. They're shooting at each other all over the place.
Charles Napier gets shotgun blasted into an electric generator.
And gets electrocuted.
So good.
It's pretty fucking good. Yeah, he's like, gets fried. It's fantastic.
Ronnie Cox thinks it's a great idea to climb up into a catwalk.
Yeah, and just sneak around on a catwalk and then stand right next to explosive barrels. Clearly, it's too bad this took place in the 80s because if it was a few years later, he would have played a couple video games and you never stand next to the red barrels because fucking Jake shoots the barrel and it explodes.
It's
and he falls to his death. And so now it's just Lynch I think everybody else is dead. All the other henchmen or whatever are dead.
Yeah.
It's just Lynch and Jake, and they're like on a chase through the.
Well, he calls for Wilson to show up.
Oh, that's right.
Breaks through the wall of this foundry in a tank.
Yes, I forgot about the fucking tank.
It's an LAPD.
I forgot about the tank.
It's an LAPD tank, and it uses uses the what's that called? The turret, the big ass turret on the tank.
I don't know.
Anyway,
yeah, the cannon.
Yeah.
Whatever, maybe.
Why did my brain get shot there? Anyways, but on the front of it says, "Have a nice day."
Yeah, well, it's like a battering ram, stuck on the front. Yeah, and
he just happens to have kidnapped Ronnie and I can't remember her name.
I don't know if they ever say her name. To be fair, yeah,
but he just has them at gunpoint.
Yeah, and I was like, that made no sense to me. I was like, okay, I will say it kind of makes sense because Jellico's corrupt. He would know about them because the partner was, part of the force. And so Jellico would know about these two and know about Jake's relationship, so he would know to use them as leverage, maybe.
Might be the closest thing.
That's the only thing that would make sense, but it's otherwise it's very random that he just has them all of a sudden.
The fight amounts to not a whole lot. Ronnie knocks the gun out of Wilson's hand, and then
the widow
they get into a fight. Yeah. She is pointing a gun at Richard Lynch saying, pick it up, so give me a reason.
I want to fucking shoot you.
Go ahead, pick it up. Pick it up.
There's some great product placement in this scene as Jake and Wilson get into a fight. Yes. And he picks up a Pepsi machine.
Absolutely picks up a Pepsi machine and smashes them with it. It's fantastic. You know what would have been great is if there would have been a Coke machine and a Pepsi machine next to each other. And he's like, Coke or Pepsi? And the guy's like, what? He's like, Coke or Pepsi? He's like, Pepsi? And then he picks up the Pepsi machine and smashes him.
It reminds me of Double Team, where they use a vending machine of a particular brand to save the day. Have you seen Double Team? Jacques-Claude Van Damme and Dennis Rodman.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wait, didn't we not do that one?
No, we did Simon Says.
Yes, that's right. No, I have not seen it.
Okay, yeah, they use they have like a whole bunch of grenades, landmines, and stuff going on, and they just use a Coke machine to block the blast.
Fantastic. But yeah, he smashes him with a Pepsi machine, which is like, now that's product play. I don't know if Pepsi paid for that, but that's pretty good.
They better have.
That's pretty good. But then, basically Jake just starts chasing. Everybody else is, the widow and the son, Ronnie, they run out, they get out of there. And then now Jake is just chasing Richard Lynch around this foundry, like chastising him for being a shitty person.
And you're like really good. It's you who's poisoning these streets and our youth.
Drugs, crooked cops, murder, torture, kidnapping.
Yeah, he's just like going on this like moral screed about how terrible Lynch is. It's fantastic, and Richard Lynch just keeps climbing ladders, man.
Yep.
It's just ladder after
they get
ladder,
all the way up to the top of a billboard, which for some reason on top of this foundry is a billboard.
It's very strange. I don't understand it, but yeah, he ends up on a billboard. I'm like, where are you going, bro? Like, what is your plan here? But he ends up on this billboard, and as Jake is trying to climb up to get to him, he's like trying to push the ladder off, but it won't fall off because it kind of looks like it's tied to the billboard or something like that. But I don't remember how he even does it.
He just like grabs some rope. He's like, and he's like trying to catch himself. He grabs some rope, which is it just finds itself tied around Richard Lynch's foot.
Yeah,
and he falls off through a skylight. Yeah, through a skylight into this foundry. And it doesn't hit the ground.
No,
and dies.
Which is better.
No,
this is really good.
He's hanging by his foot and then swings into fire,
into a furnace, into the smelter. That's a great moment. Yeah, hilarious. He falls by his leg. And you're like, oh, he's alive, and then he's like, swing, whoop, and it bursts into flames. Yes. And I was like, all right, movie, that one was pretty good. Yeah, bursts into flames, burns to death. It's pretty good. That ending I was on board with. But then it's standard this movie ending where they literally we don't
they start walking off into the distance as
you hear sirens, and the credits roll over it, and you're like, all right, fine. And he's like, let's get out of here. We did it. Everything's fine now. This movie's bad, in my opinion. It's too boring.
I think there was one of the credits that had just the greatest role name, which was just Love Slave. That was the title for this actor.
Boy, old credits. And even sometimes in newer movies, we've had a few of those over the years where it's just like, what? That's okay. Yeah. My biggest issue with this movie is that the middle is just very boring. The opening has some great stuff. The ending has some great stuff. The middle 45 minutes is just like
just a slog.
Nothing happens. It's just boring.
There was an old adage that one of my writing professors had, which was you have your beginning and your end. And the stuff in the middle is the stuff in the middle.
Yeah, that applies very well to this fucking movie, that's for sure. As always, you can do us a giant favor by heading over to patreon.com/GBorBB. Support us there for a few bucks a month. You can also support us by heading over to tpublic.com. Just search for Good Bad or Bad Bad or Quantum Physics or any of those things. And you can get some merch that also supports us. I have a podcast called This Film Is Lit where we talk about movies that are based on books. When this episode's out, our most recent episode will have been The Parent Trap, the Lindsay Lohan 1998
does
Parent
not
Trap.
surprise me that that's a movie. It was also a film in the 60s as well, right?
Yes. And it was a book from even earlier than that, obviously. But it's the Parent Trap from 1998 will have been our most recent episode.
Best part of that movie? Pierce Brosnan. Isn't he in it?
No.
Wait, who?
You're thinking of Miss Doubtfire.
You're right, I am. Who was the dad?
The dad is Dennis Quaid.
You're right. Getting my 80s and 90s actors mixed up there.
Dennis Quaid is in The Parent Trap, yeah. But anyways, that'll be the most recent episode of This Film Is Lit. You can also occasionally check us out on Twitch, just twitch.tv, and look for that. There was something else I was going to plug that now I can't remember. That was a different thing. Doesn't matter. Not important. Doesn't matter. I mean, go watch Viper Sniper. Obviously, you already have. We already did an episode on it, but if you haven't, go watch it. Go watch it again if you have already. And that's it. Until next time, keep watching movies.
Just not one-man force.
No. Also, just spare your eyes.
Yes.
If the only place to watch is on YouTube. If you don't want to fucking
you will
headache.
see the pain of 360p.
360p compressed down to like 12p. It's fucking terrible. It's so bad. Bye.